States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking out over the vast number of people in attendance today, do either of you or the three people sitting in the audience, do any of you have any comments related to non-agenda items? Seeing none, I will skip over the directions for public participation and move right on to board comments and observations. Do we have any on non-agenda items?
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do. We've got on the board.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So no public comments, no board comments. Let's jump right into the agenda. Approval of the minutes from June 12th. Do we have any corrections or additions to those minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Communication and discussion items. Let's begin with the superintendent's report.
Quick one, Madam Chair. First thing academically, I'm proposing a strategic plan date. I'd like to do it in the morning or early afternoon, but we have so many people at work that it'll be at 5 o'clock. And so what I propose is the 26th, which is Thursday. That's the one I threw out there, and we'll see how that turns out. I'll need feedback if that doesn't work, so we can move that back and forth a couple of days.
26th of July?
Yeah, real quick. 26th of July is a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So are you looking for a Wednesday?
I am.
At what time?
5 p.m. 26 at 5. 2 hours. It will be there. So what I'm doing right now is letting you know that there will be an email coming out, and I'd like for feedback if that works or it does not work. So I'll send an email out in the morning, and yea or nay. And then if that doesn't work, we'll start working some dates that we can get majority. It'd be nice to get 100%, but if we have to go with 80%, we'll do that. Sound good?
Yeah.
Additionally, in front of you is the book Teach, Reflect, Learn. That is also what our staff got at the end of the school year. There's a discussion points or a timeline of when chapters are due by. And it also is the guy that Pete Hall is coming in at the beginning of the year and then mid-year to give us a refresher. And it's really about building trust and ability to talk to one another without being
Okay.
the bottom line.
So looking at the schedule, I'm already behind. Right.
It's an easy read. But then I gave your books away to the staff and they order more. That's why you're getting them now.
Okay.
I like your input as well. So if you do have a chance to get an opportunity to read 2 or 3 chapters, shoot me an email. Let me know what you think. And then I've asked Rhonda to join me in this third part, the most important part piece of the superintendent's report is that we're embarking on a STARS preschool program, and it's a grant funded from OPI, and to the tune of about $150,000, which includes a staff member, really targeting some students that need to be around us, high needs students, specifically targeted students that would be 4 years old, and there's a curriculum to this, but it also is a socialization piece too. And we want them to start hearing vocabulary and helping them adjust to what we're finding right now. It's a really rough time for some kids to get into Cherry Valley. We see a high number of occurrences of blow-ups, and they're just not ready. So this is an opportunity for us to make that a little easier transition. Rhonda, would you share, where you're at in the process and what it looks like?
Yep, I will. So I submitted the application this morning. There were 47 other applications already submitted at that time. It's a highly competitive grant. Keeping my fingers crossed. I know Ronan is also applying for this grant as well. It is a 2-year pilot program. The legislature did fund it for 2 years. They want the data. They want to see how preschool impacts students going into kindergarten, so there would be a lot of data collection. For us, they're going to prioritize programs that will prioritize at least 25% high needs. The application we put forward is 100% high needs students, which would be those that qualify for free and reduced lunch and or are tribal members. And it would be just an expansion of what we're already doing. It would be an additional class of 18 students, 4-year-olds, getting ready for kindergarten. The program we're going to use would be Opening Worlds of Learning, which is a research-based program. It's fabulous. It's comprehensive, so it not only covers early literacy skills, but it also covers math and different STEM projects. But one of the major underlying factors of this program is it builds oral language vocabulary. So it gives kids really appropriate, center-based, hands-on experiences to build vocabulary. So every center has a list of vocabulary that we're focusing on. Teachers would be trained in dialogic reading and extended conversation and how to get those babies talking and using that vocabulary. Really excited. It would be a full day preschool, 5.5 hours. It's exciting. I'm really excited at the potential that's there. We'll just kind of keep our fingers crossed and hope that we get this grant. And
Rhonda, we talked about, we as the board passed a policy that allowed us to kind of redefine for early kindergarten, and we can't call it preschool, we call it early kindergarten. Can you explain to me how this will be integrated? I'm assuming we're not talking about two separate programs, we're talking about integrating these?
New.
Okay. Then walk me through it.
If we get this grant, it will be preschool. We cannot call it early kindergarten. It would be a preschool program, publicly funded by the legislature. The legislature wants to see if it's effective to even begin looking at publicly funding preschool. So we would just for 2 years we would call it STARS, Cherry Valley STARS preschool program. It's the same population of students.
Okay.
It's exactly the same population. Rex and I were talking, if for some reason that after 2 years this didn't go forward, there was no public funding for this program, we could tweak it and call it an early kindergarten and continue the program using the same program because it's also a kindergarten program, using the same assessments, everything.
Because that certainly, that helps with sustainability, but we couldn't, not only is there double dipping, but we couldn't call it preschool and collect A&D because it wouldn't be kindergarten.
So we kind of have a
plan. Okay, got it.
Because sustainability was one of my concerns that Rex and I we talked about, just trying to create what if plans. Because the teacher's investing a lot into this, she's going to have to go probably get her P3 certification. So she's going to have some college, there's going to be some investment in it. I would hate for it to just go 2 years and then we lose it, but we can tweak it to where we could start getting A and B for those students under an early preschool label, or
so
early
if we
label.
don't get the grant, is the plan to move forward with the early kindergarten program and still try to reach these students, or is that still kind of on the back burner?
It's kind of on the back burner. The nice thing about this is it's $150,000 of seed money, which we don't have. So we would have, I would love to continue, I love preschool. That's a soapbox. It's a passion. It's important. So I definitely want to keep the conversation going. Probably not for this year because it's going to be a quick turnaround. We find out July 21st. We would want to start it September 11th when the other kindergarten starts. Probably the staggered start with kindergarten. So it would be a really fast turnaround.
And you have an idea of how you would identify these potential 18 students as far as recruitment and all of that with that quick turnaround? Working with
generally, generally. We're going to have to put out, we're going to have to publicize, and then it's 18 slots.
Right.
It is going to be a first come, those that qualify, and then a balance between boys, girls. We're just going to have some specific slots open, first come, first served, that meet the criteria.
Trustees, other questions?
Question, with the amount of money that you're getting with this, does that include the wages for whoever you're going to hire for this position?
Yes. And we would, there is a person, I had to identify a teacher already, so Janelle Finkbeiner agreed that if we get the grant, she would move into the lead teacher slot with Brooke Ingram as the paraprofessional. If she gets that, then we have already posted for a potential job opening and have got a pool of names so that we can quickly turn that around and fill. I have someone who wants to move into her title position, so we would have a first grade position that we would need to fill quickly.
You've been busy.
We've been working on it. I'm hoping. I want to be ready if we get it. If we don't, it's a non-issue. But if we do, we've got to have some ducks in a row. So
For your information also, there's a 10% that we need to be able to add to the program. And so out of 150,000, we feel that we can cover that through transportation, about $12,000 in transportation, and that would fulfill our requirements for the 10% piece.
Yeah.
So it's not free for us. It's certainly, if you do the A&B money, it calculates about $104,000. If we went to the other side of the A&B, it's $6,000 a head versus where the grant's about $150. So it's a better revenue for us.
Help with those starter costs and everything
it would be
else.
great. I budgeted the cost of all the assessments that they'll need. I budgeted the new program. I budgeted classroom materials, furniture, and even some outdoor material. Some budget for outdoors, so we can maybe get some specific preschool, some additional small childhood kind of outdoor equipment, and
I think, the last thing that will definitely make this go or no go, it's transportation. We were really thinking about not having transportation, having parents bring their kids in, but we just know that.
Give them a combination.
yeah.
So there'll be buses that'll run
Those tiny
both
kids
ends.
need that reliable transportation.
Probably good Elmo and Turtle Lake are the two routes that we're looking at. So I'll keep you updated.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear. Any follow-up questions? Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thanks, Robin. Lastly, on the other, we got word late that Summit Roofing is going to be with the Folsom Middle School roof project. They're going to be about 3 weeks later than expected. Now remember, they were already late getting into the project, so they're going to be about second week of August. And we're going to go ahead and just let them make that transition in, and given the summer that we're having, we'll probably have some good time for them to work through August and September. But it is going to be later than expected. It's really not that big a deal for us because we know that we get them this spring. They're going to be back on the roof regardless. They're going to be there anyway, and they're going to work all the way until the end of the project. And so right now they're going to be 3 weeks later than expected. And that's on some of the project that's done hindered and not able to move off of that, so they have to finish that project before they get to us.
Are there any critical aspects of our project that, depending on weather, might not get done because of that before the winter?
They still believe that, in fact, we got an email this evening that they want to sit down and talk about what, my question is when I found out, what does that mean? Are we going to have holes in the roof, or are you going to just bring in trailers and leave it there? So I want to know what their expectations are of what they think they can get done. Obviously, we're not letting them tear into anything if it looks like we're not going to be able to complete and we'll be patching stuff up. So we're going to have to be real specific on what that looks like in phase one. And last, I got an email this morning, and I think it's of particular importance. We lived for the last 8 years under the No Child Left Behind, NCLB. Now we have ESSA, Every Child Succeeds Act. There was a very large committee that put that plan together for the state. In fact, we were the first state to submit. Got kicked back out because of change in administration, both at our state level and at federal level. It looks like now the revised plan is back because of some requirements that need to be added. July will be time that we get to look at it, and I'll submit it to you all for your eyes. It needs to go back to the governor in August, so there's going to be community input through July. The governor gets to sign it in August, and I think the Department of Education needs to sign it off in September. And so there's a new plan coming up that's, as you remember, NCLB pretty much drove everything that we were doing for a long time. I have a feeling this will as well, but it's not near as intense in the assessments. Yeah, so I'll be looking at that pretty heavily. So those are the things that we've been working on lately.
Good to know. Any follow-up questions for Mr. Wells, trustees? Thank you so much. Okay, number 3, board committee appointments. We're not doing updates this month because it is time to recommit or take the opportunity to switch committees. So we're just going to run through these really quickly. And for the folks who were, unable to make this meeting, we get the opportunity to appoint them. So, hey, all right. So, there you go. The 2 people who were previously on the facilities committee before are not here. So my first question is there anyone who is currently here, a trustee, who would like to fill one of those slots for the facilities committee for the next year?
Say Alan Shane.
Okay, Alan and Shane.
Doing that, yeah.
Doing a fantastic job. We'll just keep them around. Policy committee, 1 to 2 people. Last year we had Shannon and Steve. Do you guys want to continue or do you want to shake it up?
Awesome.
I can stay on there.
Okay.
Unless somebody else wants.
Yeah. Okay. Budget committee is ad hoc, so we don't really have members. It's just when we need to have that, we all convene. Negotiations committee, we currently have 2 members. That's Chanel and I. We can have up to a 3rd. If there is someone who would like to learn how that goes and be a part of that process, negotiations will be ramping up here at Steve's.
And they're done that
So, hey, I'm just trying to be diplomatic here. It's an opportunity, so I'm looking, okay, Chanel, it's you and me again. So far, it is status quo. And I did speak to Tim, and he said he'd be happy to continue to serve on the Class A caucus committee unless someone else wants it.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, are you getting all of this, Pam? Okay. Transportation committee, again, that's Alan, meets twice a year unless somebody else wants that gig. Meets with the county superintendent twice a year to go over bus routes.
You guys doing a great job.
All right, Alan.
Keep it up, Alan.
This is like the Mutual Admiration Society. Committee membership is just popping. Okay, superintendent evaluation committee. You guys still have outstanding business, so I'm just gonna leave you guys to it if you guys are all right with that. All right, there we go.
And can I make a note? That's Chanel, Cindy.
Was there a?
It was
And
a-
Alan was on it. Yeah, Alan's on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We are like the most stable board. It's just. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, like I said, if anybody wants to jump on negotiations, I am absolutely willing to. Not so much fun. All right, so that's number 3. Moving right along, Pamela, it's time for the budget report.
Thank you, Major. June is over. It's not over in my mind yet, though.
Dreaming numbers.
Dreaming of numbers, yes. Payroll, $2.86 million, and claims $458,000. So $3,318,000 spent in the month of June.
And you know why that is? The certified 3 paychecks.
Yeah. So with that, I am waiting now for the county reports to be produced so that I can close out the year for taxes receivable, bond payments, protested taxes, and what have you, so that we can actually be done with that, so that then we can look at what we have for reserves to budget for next year. So summer is kind of really ramped up and busy for our office. There isn't much revenue that comes in, but there's a lot of reporting and procedures that we do. So I didn't include the graph this month because pretty much it's 100+% on most funds. No, actually.
I'm like,
Right. It's actually right where we should be. I think that our reserves are looking pretty similar to what we were last year, which is, pretty good. We're doing fine. None of the expenditures were anything that were too much out of hand, and Deb continues to send the detail for the BMO. If anybody has any questions there, then I guess that ends my report.
Any questions for me? I had just one quick general question. I remember this time last year, staff were still getting used to kind of everybody needs to play by the same rules of turning in requests for supplies and those kinds of things. Are we well in the groove as far as that goes?
Maybe not well in the groove, but it did go a lot smoother.
Okay, sure.
They did adhere to those timelines and whatnot a lot better. It's nice because then they know what to expect too. I mean, it's not saving up and then, oh, where's my stuff in June?
Right.
It helps them and us, I think, to prepare. So.
I just remember there was a little drama surrounding that last year and some panic, and so it's good to hear that that's improving. Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to the consent agenda. Trustees, are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda for individual consideration? Seeing none, at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The consent agenda is passed as submitted. Moving on to new business. Number 6, recommendation to approve middle school out-of-state travel. I see that Jesse is not here. Who's presenting that request?
I will do that. The middle school would like to request permission to attend Silverwood for those students that were not able to make it this spring. Again, it's Silverwood trip. We've done this for several years now, and this will be for those students that didn't have the opportunity.
Okay. Any questions? At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the request for out-of-state travel.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments from the public? Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor of approving the middle school out-of-state travel request, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The travel request is approved. Number 7, recommendation to approve Cherry Valley Student Handbook. Rhonda.
It is basically the same as before, just a few changes. I changed the formatting. I took everything out of bold, which was kind of irritating to me. So I changed the formatting on it, so it just seemed a little more clear. I also added the meal charge, which was a request, and I added the kindergarten staggered start schedule for kindergarten parents, and that's it.
I thought it looked very nice.
Thank
Yes,
you.
It does. It's very easy to navigate. Appreciate that. Do we have any questions by the staff or by the trustees? Okay. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the updated Cherry Valley Student Handbook as submitted.
So moved.
For a second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion or comments from the public? Any further discussion from the trustees? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the Cherry Valley Student Handbook as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The handbook is approved. Number 8, recommendation to approve Linderman interim principal. Mr. Watts.
It's my pleasure to forward name Kristen Wilson to you as the interim principal at Linderman. Again, Linderman, the timing of it was real late, and so as I worked through with the Linderman staff, I let them know and the applicants know it would be an interim basis as the timing of it. Similar to what we've done with Cherry Valley and Folsom Middle School. If it works, we would recommend that we just remove that label of interim and move forward since she went through the process already. And I also said that if it's not working, then we're going to open it back up at the right time. And usually, principals are March, April is when you start looking for a principal. So I think it's very clear of where we're at in that same thought. So I'm really excited for the opportunity for Mrs. Wilson to jump in. She's been in our district for 20 years.
Not in our district, our top 20.
20 years. And I look for her expertise and experience in that building. So I'm excited for her. You know, we've had lots of conversations already. Moving forward.
So does that mean that there'll be a new position opening for 4th grade?
Yes.
When does that go open?
We opened last week. Yeah,
They're closing this week, so
we opened last week, we'll close this week, and
closes Friday.
Mrs. Wilson and I talked about the screening process and then getting the interview committee together and starting the process of finding that person. We have had a pool of applicants because of Cherry Valley and their needs, and so we know that there are people that are very interested in working in our district, and so we'll be pulling from some of that as well. Timing is really important right now.
Any other questions? At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation for the interim principal.
Second.
We have a motion in multiple seconds. Do we have any further comment or any comments from the public? Any further discussion around the board? All those in favor of approving the recommendation for Linderman interim principal signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It is unanimous. Congratulations. Moving right along, number 9, recommendation to approve personnel reports. If everyone, trustees, did you notice there was a revised version of the personnel report in your green folder? Mr. Elliott, do you have anything to
No, it's
highlight?
just very, very brief this month. We just asked that you would approve both the high school and elementary personnel report as submitted.
Question, I guess, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Juan Perez and Art.
It has been pulled for now.
So there's actually, as of now, no high school girls basketball coach.
For now.
Is that going to be open again for other opportunities?
Is there anything you can tell us?
I'm sorry, what?
Anything you can tell us, or what's maybe going on? I don't
Not
know.
that can be discussed in open session.
Figure so.
But at this point, there is no, as far as to my knowledge, there is no plans to reopen advertising at this point. It's just been delayed.
I see.
All right. So, looking at the revised personnel report, any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
So, do you have to, are you looking for another teacher? Because I noticed them.
So I did have, the young woman that I offered the kindergarten position did take a position elsewhere. And so we had, the interview team had like 4 or 5 that we interviewed that were just fabulous. And so we had 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's too
5.
bad. She would have been great.
She would have been very good.
I was hoping it was just a miscut and paste thing. I was like, oh,
I know.
you know, just thought maybe,
The one,
Oh,
oh, I know. She's actually worked in Orion this last year and just felt like that was home, and they had a position opened up. And we are looking at filling that with, I think, someone that's just as fabulous.
I'm sure, but I was. Just had
We
to.
all have to talk around everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the revised personnel report for the high school district.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Do we have any comment from the public? Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the revised personnel report for the high school district signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The high school district revised personnel report is passed. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the revised personnel report for the elementary school district.
Second.
We have a motion second. Do you have any comments from the public? Further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the revised personnel report for the elementary school district signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The revised personnel report for the elementary school district is approved. Okay, that was item number 9. Okay, item number 10, recommendation to approve out-of-district report. Mr. Wells.
As you see in front of you, the elementary out-of-district report, 5 students. I would recommend that we approve those 5 students to attend Folsom School District.
Okay. And I'm assuming all the issues regarding space have already been vetted. We're all good. No? Any questions? Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation, or approve the out-of-district for out-of-district elementary. God bless America. We're going to reword this on the agenda one of these days because it's always the one I trip over. Recommendation to approve out-of-district for the elementary school district. Second. A motion and second. Do we have any comments from the moment? Again, reword it. How do you make that any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, do we have another one? Yes, we have. We have a recommendation to approve out-of-district students for the high school district.
Second.
We have a motion, second. No comments? Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, unanimous is passed. I swear to God, we're going to reword that. Okay. Yeah. Every month. Okay, seeing no further business before this board, I adjourn this meeting. That might be a freaking record.
Welcome aboard, Kristen.
Yes, I guess.